Why does no one listen to you even when you're right? History is filled with voices that were ignored until it was too late. A philosopher sentenced to death. A prophet cursed to never be believed. Both their societies rejected their truth-tellers. But why do we mock those who warn us of the future only to regret it when it's too late? To understand, we have to start with a woman who saw it all before anyone else. A woman cursed to know the future, but never to change it. Cassandra was a princess of Troy in Greek mythology, blessed by Apollo with the power to see the future. But after she rejected him, he cursed her so she would still see the truth, but no one would ever believe her. And so she watched in horror as her people walked straight into their own doom. She saw the omens long before they became undeniable. She knew that Paris, her brother, would bring ruin upon Troy by taking Helen from Sparta. She saw the war, the destruction, the bodies piled in the streets, the fires that would consume her home. She tried to warn them, but no one listened. She was just a woman, just a priestess, just another voice in the wind. And when the Greeks left a massive wooden horse outside the city gates, Cassandra knew it was not a trophy, but a trap. She saw the soldiers hidden inside, the massacre that would follow, the cries of children and the wails of the dying. She screamed, she begged, she warned. But the Trojans, blinded by their own optimism, refused to listen. They rolled the horse into the city, celebrated their victory, and fell asleep, never to wake up again. But Cassandra's tragedy did not end there. After Troy fell, she was taken as a war prize by Agamemnon, the Greek king who had led the attack. And once again, she saw the future. She knew that the moment they arrived in his homeland, he would be murdered by his wife, Clytemnestra. She knew she too would be killed alongside him. She warned everyone who would listen, and again, no one did. She was right, and she died for it. Cassandra's story is not just a myth, it's a pattern, a reoccurring tragedy in which those who see what others cannot are ignored, ridiculed, and silenced until their warnings come true, and no one in history embodies this more than Socrates. Socrates was, in many ways, the Cassandra of Athens. He didn't have supernatural visions, but he did have something just as rare, an unshakable commitment to the truth. He spent his life questioning everything, exposing the ignorance of politicians, challenging the false confidence of the masses, and forcing people to confront the uncomfortable reality that they knew far less than they believed. In the Apology of Socrates by Plato, Socrates warned about the rapid decline of Athens, believing that the city had grown complacent, that its leaders were corrupt, that its people had stopped thinking for themselves. He saw the arrogance of the politicians, the manipulation of the masses, the fragility of the democracy that Athenians held so dear, and he called it out, publicly, relentlessly. But Athens did not appreciate his wisdom. They saw him as a nuisance, an agitator, a corrupter. His constant questioning made the powerful feel vulnerable. His refusal to accept easy answers made him dangerous. And so, instead of listening, they silenced him. He was put on trial for corrupting the youth and disrespecting the gods. In reality, his only crime was telling the truth to a society that didn't want to hear it. During his trial, Socrates warned them that they were making a terrible mistake. He told them that by killing him, they were not solving their problems, but exposing their own inability to face reality. He compared himself to a gadfly, an irritant that Athens needed to wake up from its complacency. But just like Cassandra, he was ignored. The jury found him guilty, and instead of begging for mercy, he doubled down. He suggested that instead of execution, his punishment should be free meals for life, because in his mind he had done the city a service. Athens disagreed. They handed him a cup of poison, and he drank it. But here's the thing, Socrates was right. Athens soon fell into chaos just as he had predicted. His execution had done nothing to fix the deep flaws in its political system, and in the centuries that followed, his name would live on, not as a criminal, but as one of the greatest philosophers of all time. The people who condemned him thought they were protecting their way of life. Instead, they had silenced one of the few people who could have saved it. And yet this pattern never stopped. Even today, we see our own Cassandras. People who try to warn us of dangers before they arrive, only to be dismissed as alarmists, conspiracy theorists, or fools. Take Elon Musk, for example. For years, Musk has been one of the loudest voices warning about the dangers of artificial intelligence. He said that with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon, warning that if left unchecked, AI could become a threat to humanity itself. He has spoken about the risks of AI surpassing human intelligence, making decisions beyond our understanding, and being weaponized in ways we cannot control. When he first made these warnings, people laughed. Tech leaders dismissed him as dramatic. AI researchers insisted that there was nothing to fear. The mainstream media portrayed him as a doomsday prophet. The idea that AI could pose an existential threat was written off as science fiction. But in the last few years, reality has started to catch up. AI is advancing at an unprecedented pace with systems like ChatGPT, deep learning algorithms, and autonomous decision-making already shaping the world in ways we barely understand. Governments and tech companies are now scrambling to figure out how to regulate AI before it spirals out of control. The very people who mocked Musk are now echoing his concerns, but has enough been done? Or are we once again waiting for a disaster to strike before we admit the warnings were right? So why do we keep doing this? Why do people reject truth-tellers even when the evidence is right in front of them? The first reason is cognitive dissonance, the psychological discomfort that comes from holding two conflicting beliefs. When someone presents evidence that contradicts what we already believe, our brains don't immediately accept it. Instead, we reject the new information to protect our existing worldview. The Trojans wanted to believe the war was over, so they ignored Cassandra. The Athenians wanted to believe that they were wise and just, so they silenced Socrates. And people today want to believe that the systems they rely on, whether political, economic, or technological, are stable and trustworthy. The second reason is social pressure. Humans are wired to conform. If everyone around us is rejecting a warning, it feels safer to go along with the crowd than to stand alone. Socrates' trial wasn't just about his ideas, it was about what happens when someone dares to challenge the status quo. The jurors who condemned him may not have believed he was guilty, but it was easier to side with the majority than to defend a man who had made powerful enemies. The third reason is short-term thinking. People are naturally focused on immediate concerns rather than long-term risks. The Trojans were celebrating their victory, so they ignored Cassandra. The Athenians wanted to preserve their democracy, so they silenced Socrates. And today, many people ignore warnings about AI, climate change, or economic collapse because those dangers feel distant compared to more immediate problems. It's easier to deal with what's happening now and hope that future dangers will somehow take care of themselves. But history shows that ignoring the truth doesn't make it go away. It only postpones the moment when we can no longer escape it. The Cassandra Syndrome isn't just a myth, it is a warning in itself. It tells us that human nature has a blind spot, that we resist the truth when it's inconvenient, that we attack those who try to help us, and that we only recognize wisdom in hindsight. But it doesn't have to be this way. We can choose to listen before it's too late. We can choose to challenge our own beliefs instead of rejecting those who do it for us. we can choose to embrace uncomfortable truths rather than cling to comforting illusions. Because in the end, the real question isn't whether Cassandra existed. It's whether we listen to today's Cassandras before it's too late. If the myth of Cassandra resonates with you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more powerful insights into life and philosophy. See you in the next video.